I hope you can hear me. It might be a little loud. I am on my phone and people don't know what yield signs are. I will not have the chat open because if I have the chat open, I have to read and try to respond. And I'm trying not to do that when I'm driving. So coming from Tulsa, it's drizzling outside. Coming from Tulsa, there was a great lab that was a cadaver lab that went over just like airway emergency medicine and stuff like that. So it was like great stuff. So athletic training fellow leads me to an athletic training fellow that's working with football, University of Memphis. I don't know if she wants me to reveal her name or not, so I'll add it later if she gives me permission. She had questions, and we've been wanting to talk for a while now. And my schedule doesn't always allow it. I didn't realize I was going to be going to this class because this class I was late as I had stuff to do for work. So it's like a 2 hours and 15-minute drive to get back to where I'm located. So that's where I was like, let me do a live and see if I can answer these questions. There's just 10 questions, and I'm hoping you guys can hear me. And of course, I know people are probably in class, people are probably working, that's not a problem. I'm hoping it will allow people to just refer back to these questions a lot. And so I'm hoping, because I placed it on Instagram, you can look at the questions, you can refer to this YouTube live and go from there. Thank you for everyone who sent their DMs. Obviously, this is from January 6th, so you can see that I'm a little bit behind, and there could be people before January 6th. So my apologies, I'll get there. So we'll start off with the first question because we had 10 questions, and we have about an hour. It says hour and 20 minutes, but I'm going to take about an hour, probably less. So, again, I'm not going to be staring at the phone so I can drive. So just listen, pay attention. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for your support. And it's been a long time we had this live. So here we go. 2 minutes, 35 seconds in. Let's hurry up and finally get to the first question. First question is, with your diverse experience in multiple settings and at different levels, what led you to the NBA? So, if I talk about what led me into the NBA, I don't think it had too much to do so much with my experience. I know I have experience, but there's a lot of people who have way more experience than I do. So I might have to put this phone on vibrate because it's going off. Anyway, okay. So with the diverse experiences, I have other videos where I talk about like where I went to school, what I did for school. If you guys want that, let me know. Or maybe I should take the chat off. But anyway, for you guys to know, basically went through undergrad. Undergrad at that time allowed for athletic training. Now it's a master's degree, or a requirement, master's degree. If you want to get your doctorate, cool. I am not a big believer in getting your doctorate in athletic training. I think you should get it in something else if you're going to go ahead and do it. And then also did physical therapy school. Didn't plan on doing physical therapy. Did that because my mom was like, you need to get a doctorate. Grandma was like, get a doctorate. And I ended up doing it. But it was a great decision. Yeah. Great decision. Then went to, as I'm in school, it was like, I'm going to go ahead and work at a hospital. Not my choice, but that was like acute care, level 1 trauma center. Yeah, level 1 trauma center. Great experience. While I was there, I was like, I want to do a residency. Took time because my roommate at the time wanted to do the residency, same residency. So I was like, let's wait. Went ahead, applied to Duke, got into Duke Sports Residency. While I was at Duke, I've always kept a LinkedIn, followed as many people as I could. A lot of ignored emails. That's what I'm trying to tell people, like keep emailing people. But I was contacted while I was in my residency for my, just to keep in contact. And this is from an NBA team. So therefore, I didn't apply for anything. It was more so that person reaching out. And I thought it was spam. Prayed about it. Husband was like, yo, see who that is. So found out it was actually an NBA team. So that stuff does happen because it ended up happening with other teams, not just NBA. So have a LinkedIn. Fast forward, did a fellowship. I didn't really have that much experience, especially dealing with strength and conditioning coach. So that was something that the fellowship really helped me. Great autonomy. I went to Wake Forest, great fellowship. I know they have chosen their new fellow for the upcoming year, so that is exciting. I need to check speed limits changing. Awesome. And yeah, so as I was doing a fellowship, other teams started like reaching out, but here I am with this team, and that's basically, it was LinkedIn. That's why I'm like, yo, get LinkedIn, because you may not, there's sometimes they'll have application process, like applications online, but sometimes that might be after the fact of they've already spoken with other people, whether that's via LinkedIn or someone knew someone. No one, it wasn't like someone knew me or I knew someone to say, oh yeah, let me get on this NBA team or MLB team or NFL team. It wasn't like that. So that's why I'm a big believer in LinkedIn. Just put as much as your resume as you can on there, and that helps. So that's number one. I knew I always liked basketball, so that was something that I like basketball. My family grew up like basketball. I like basketball. I played basketball, all that good stuff. Always watched All-Star, always watched NBA Classics. If you know, then you know. Watched it with my dad and my mom and brothers. Always went to all the games. So that's basically kind of what led, in a nutshell. Plenty of other videos and also lives that talks about that. If anyone wants specifically just about what exactly I did, hopefully in the near future when the season ends, maybe, I can get into further detail. So, number 2, 7 minutes in. Number 2, how would you compare your experience in basketball to football? That's a really good question. So, I can't speak on NFL because I don't have NFL experience. I only worked with NFL players, and that's when I was in the college realm, when they would come back from like their off season, or they would come back from like they had an injury or wanted to do rehab. Like that's when I worked with them. But I can speak on just college experience, Division I college football, which I think that is a real, it's pretty intense still. So say if I wanted to talk on just on the sports medicine side, you are dealing with less players on basketball, and I'm pretty sure you guys know that already. So like less players completely. So thinking of like you're depending on the number of staff to players. So staff wise, there could be 5 to 8 staff that work with 17 guys, maybe some practice players if you do G League or if you guys do that on your team. Versus football, you can still have 5 to 8 staff and you have 105 plus players. So that already in itself is mad different. And then also, most likely, we're not going 5 in the morning to go set up, cows and stuff like that. So we're not doing that. But we have a lot more games. We have 82 just regular season games. This does not include pre-draft stuff. So a lot of it's like spread out throughout the year. So when people think of, oh, your regular season ends in April, as soon as, well, even now, right now, we're calling athletic trainers for like colleges, getting information on upcoming players, pre-draft workouts, and pre-draft meaning NBA draft. The NBA draft is usually in June, but leading up to that, it's like May or whatever, we're doing draft workouts and all that stuff. So it's more of a year-long thing where there's like intermittent random breaks. And that's why it's hard, I think, also to speak to people and say, oh yeah, I'll be free this time, I can talk this time, or I could come to this class and speak, I can come to this university and do this, or CSM, we're always working. So that's where it gets a little tough. So on that aspect, it's different. Also, the type of contact injuries are going to be different. Way more contact. Obviously, the way tackling and what's allowed with tackling changes. So the injuries in that sense, I know it's already changed on the NFL side. Same thing with basketball, just like knowing there's still contact in basketball. So the injuries are also different, where, you know, ankle sprains are pretty much typical, still have ACLs, there's still other injuries as well, things that you may see. You may not see things such as Liz Frank as common in basketball. So I would say injuries in that sense might be a little different. So, and when I was doing football, I was actually an athletic training student. Well, I was also working as, meaning after Division I, or doing other schools, so like Wake Forest, Duke. When I was at Duke, I actually did high school. So that's another thing I want to bring up. Like, for those, sorry, there's construction around me. For those who are like, oh, what opportunities can I do? Stuff like that. Do not knock high school, middle school, like sports. So I got a lot of experience high school, middle school, and that helped me, because experience is experience. Even little peeps, what do they call it, little leagues or whatever they call it, for like soccer, I still was able to utilize things in that, whether it's like even meeting parents, working well with the child, knowing what injuries arise, how to handle the parent. Because in the NBA, as everyone knows, the players are getting younger. So players getting younger, there's still parents around. There's still parents that are involved in their child's life. Well, obviously they're not minors, but just understanding their players still have parents, and they have questions, and they want to be aware. So I think having experience with those other ages helped me in that sense. And so that's what I say the carryover is on that. So that was question number 2. Question number 3, and again, people who are logged in, appreciate y'all. My chat is off because I'm driving. I just want to make sure my reaction is pretty good because focusing on driving. But questions are on my Instagram, so check my Instagram post. The questions are there so you can follow along. So question number 3, do you feel valued all day? Here we go. Good question. Hold on, let me get over this little bump here. I get to question 3. Question 3, do you feel valued as a Black woman working professional basketball? Another good question. So we have Black History Month, and now we're in Athletic Training Month, which is in March, and Women's, I forgot about that. Yeah, we are in Women's Month, Women's History Month. So a lot of good stuff. Do I feel valued? So obviously that's like a perception, and I will say at times yes, at times no. Just like with anyone, I think in any sport, any level, I don't think it has anything to do with professional sports. So valued like by the players, 110%. And even on other teams, a lot of these players are very respectful. Do not disrespect me, treat me as if I'm their sister or whatever, like really or aunt, whatever, because there's a huge age gap probably. Very respectful people, so no doubt about that. Sometimes when it gets to obviously I won't be speaking names, but it happens at all levels. So it's not saying any particular place because it happens at all levels. So, you're a female, it must be hard for you to connect with players because they're guys. And it's like, no. Not quite. Been in the sports setting for like, I think my first experience was 2010. No, not really. And I've only had some women's sports. Most of my sports have been men's sports. So, no. So sometimes you get stuff like that, and it's usually by males. It's never by players that say this. And so, no, that doesn't happen. No, don't feel any type of way. And I think you got to know yourself at the end of the day. So, other things and like, you don't have that much experience. And it's like, yeah, maybe not as much NBA experience. This is my 4th year. But when it comes to outside of this setting, you still have experience. Just like I tell people, you worked in AAU basketball, helping out in that sense, still experience. Helping with soccer, do a residency or do a fellowship, or you were just shadowing an athletic trainer, shadowing a physical therapist, that's still experience. So that's something that you have to remind yourself, and sometimes you have to let the other person know in a respectful manner. So that's basically for question number 3. Now moving on to question number 4. So as sports medicine programs continue to move towards exercise science approaches, what ways have you all integrated that into your practice? It's a very good question. I'm making sure I'm checking. I'm doing good on my driving skills. Here we go. So sports medicine programs do have exercise science. So I didn't. Well, my exercise science program was pretty good. It's pretty decent, but I don't. As an undergrad, I think you need to do more than your undergraduate degree, and that's just the whole truth and nothing. I think we're reconnected. Okay. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, so I would advise like the exercise science like classes, and even some masters now, they have stuff in kinesiology, exercise science. Those are great programs. But it's not saying we're using all those things like stats and stuff. Like you'll find as you to the professional setting, you have old trainers. It's not saying I can't do that, but sometimes being utilized in a different setting. So we have, say, for example, we could have on staff as a rehab coordinator, rehab director, like. So it depends on, it's a team setting. So it depends on how you're being utilized. So I think you won't know how you're being utilized. So I think going through those programs, exercise science is like great. So you're going to get your biomechanical stuff to get an understanding of what's going on, how the body's moving. That helps with when you're seeing injuries or when you see how a person's moving, how can they be efficient and effective in it? I think that's like a great idea. Some of those classes, the research aspect, because when you're working, you may actually deal with research and knowing how you can contribute that way. Exercise science also is going to give you, if they have the other lab portions that deal a little bit with athletic training, because now it's a master's program for athletic training. So some have electives that are in athletic training. So for example, that's how I found out about athletic training, was through exercise science, and it had a training room observer like thing, and that's how I found out, like, oh, this is what athletic training is. You're in the training room, and I thought that's what physical therapy, exercise science was. So you get to see that integration. So yeah, I'm trying to see. I'm hoping you guys can actually hear me. I can't really like sound check myself, so sorry guys if it's not as clear. So that was question number 4. So, and obviously like there's modalities. So some people use modalities such as like the electrical stimulation, stuff like that. We may use some of that, but a lot of it's probably with dry needling, and so that's higher education in that aspect, but that's that. But I think it gives you a great framework of doing exercise science and other pre-physical therapy, all those things, but just knowing that's the starting point. That's your foundation with your anatomy and physiology. Okay, now we are moving on to question number 5. So, question number 5. How have you built your network over the years? I like that kind of network question. And how would you recommend a young professional build theirs? So, this just goes back to what I talk about in other videos, a lot of my other lives, and it talks about networking is great in person. I'm all for that. COVID, I think, has been like the biggest like challenge for a lot of people, because a lot of times, even during COVID years, no one wanted to meet up in person. Oh, can I shadow you? And it's like, there you go, no. Even here now, like NBA, NFL, it's getting a little bit more challenging, even after COVID, to shadow someone. So because of COVID, all the COVID tests they had to do, then the vaccine requirements, the booster requirements as well. A lot of times it's like, we don't allow observers. No, we don't allow this. So I think that's where it gets challenging when I talk to students around that time, and even now, where it's like a lot of times it's not allowed. I know for the NBA, our team, we're not necessarily allowing that, and I know G League teams may be a little bit of a better option, which is paired with the NBA team. So keep that in mind. And I also know when it comes to like the NFL, they have the combine coming up. The NBA, they have the summer league that happens in July. They have the Salt Lake City one summer league that's in very early July, and then also the one in Vegas that's right after that. A lot of times they need volunteers. And at that point, you're probably not doing a lot of athletic training stuff, but that's how you're going to network and communicate with those people. So getting, I know I talked to some in person about like trying to navigate that. We haven't got a final say on the exact details of like, oh, we're choosing these students and from here. So sorry about that, because I don't have any new information from the league concerning that. I do know a lot of times the NBA, so obviously following the NBA on LinkedIn, they post some stuff. It's not all the time, but when they do have something, whether it was the fellowship they had something going on, whether it's anything for volunteers, they'll put it on there. The NFL is really good with that. The NFL will post like, hey, we have insight for those things. Didn't get them, but it led into other conversations, which was really cool. That's how I found out about the Indianapolis Colts. They will take on a PTA or a PT, so a physical therapist or a physical therapist athletic trainer, and it's like a fellowship integrating into their system, understanding what football is about. But if you were to work in that setting, and you can apply it to anywhere else, because you'll work with like injury reports, work with the team physician, knowing what does that look like, and the players and stuff like that. And then also Kevin Wilkes is a physical therapist, APCA, so they had CSM. So if you're like, a lot of times they'll have different fellowships. Now athletic training, they're having fellowships. The person that gave me these questions, she's doing a fellowship, and it was with football. And a lot of times going on school websites finding the sports medicine page. So that's what I did a lot of times, find the sports medicine page, Googling, and just emailing people, messaging people that way. Do you have any fellowships, anything athletic training wise, or I want to become an athletic trainer, I want to become a physical therapist, I'm not quite there, or I'm in undergrad. Like those things, get in that conversation, like, can I observe for free? Can I volunteer? Can I clean tables? Those things start those conversations that help you network. And then now that we do things in person, don't forsake the things online. So I'm not like saying you got to be on people's Instagram, because that could be private for some people. But say when it comes to a link, I DM'd you about, that's not going to help you with networking. But just knowing their path, understanding what they did, and then that helps me just understand, like, oh, they went to that school, or they did that, or they didn't do what I did. Okay, how did they navigate this? What led to that? Like, what other things besides school did you do? What other opportunities did you did? Be helpful. And that's what I would encourage people to continue to do. LinkedIn, and then anything like CSM. When I went to CSM, I actually went to CSM as a resident and then as a fellow. And especially as a resident, I wanted to learn. That was cool. I learned a lot more through my residency program, but a lot of it I went to network, and I think people don't think people take advantage of any of those symposiums or this TCC, Team Concept Conference. So the sports section, I know they don't call it themselves a sports section anymore, but the orthopedic section, anything like that, or APTA has any programs that allow you to meet others, or you pay your money, or school helps you go to these symposiums or CSM. Go out of your way, connect with students, great, but see if you can talk to people on the panel, talk to people, get contact information, and go through that way. So that's my take on that. So that was question number 5. So question number 6. Have you ever had any success cold emailing your resume to athletic trainers for jobs or internships? So personally, no, it has never, ever worked out. But that was me. And I've talked to other people that have done that. So one person, I will not say this person's name, they would apply to the athletic training. So NFL would have like athletic training internships. So a lot of people may know they list it on their LinkedIn. And maybe also on the NFL website. So they'll list like a season intern, and then they'll have something for the combine, and they may have some for the summer, I should say, for the summer. And they applied every year, didn't get in. So a lot of it, they didn't even know that the person existed. Same thing with me when I cold emailed them. I actually got to the point where I was guessing people's emails because I couldn't find email addresses. I was going on the NBA website that tells you like how like I really wanted to work in the NBA, and I was trying to like email thinking of like maybe it's first initial last name or first name last name at the organization.org, or trying to figure out what these email addresses were. Some of them will turn back like not, return to sender, wrong address. Some it didn't return, but I'm like, maybe they got it, I don't know. But then like I think I had one person email me back and they were like, oh, we don't have any opportunities, X, Y, and Z. I still know this person, they still work in the NBA, but it's still funny because I was trying anything I could to work in the NBA, but it didn't work out. But I was fine because I think the biggest thing I needed to utilize was LinkedIn. I either got more like me putting like my goals or what I wanted helped me going to, not saying just going to school, but talking about different courses I took. So I'll always talk about Conscious Steps, which is think of EMR or like emergency medicine, first responder stuff. Going to those classes, putting it on there on my LinkedIn. Then when it came to, let me check make sure I'm like going the right direction. Okay, perfect, we're good. EMR stuff, so emergency medicine, Conscious Steps is good. Sports medicine concept is another one that I think the APTA is reaching out. I know this is about athletic training, but you can still do it as an athletic trainer and as a physical therapist. So that was good. And then when I started getting into, like after I finished physical therapy school, dry needling. So dry needling, like a lot of teams look for, did you do dry needling? So just putting that out there. I did do, I think it was Kineticor. Did do Kineticor. Obviously they're not called that anymore, but the pistoning, which is like taking the needle, going up and down into the tissue that is pretty tense. I found that I don't like that. So I'm sorry, any companies out there, I will not say any names now because I know what the new names of the companies are that rebranded or got bought out. Do not like that. Spinal Manipulation Institute.org is like a great organization that for dry needling. So you don't have to be a physical therapist to do it. You can reach out to them, go to Spinal Manipulation Institute.org, and you can find out what you need to do to be allowed to participate, get your certification. It's a weekend course to get the upper body done. It's another course to do the lower body, and then you can be certified. And teams like that, okay? So I know I'm going off a little bit on a tangent, but you could do that. Then there's spinal manipulation. Spinal manipulation for those who maybe you're in PT school or athletic training school. Mobilizations, we have grade 1 through 4, and then the grade 5 is manipulation. So like a thrust, so low amplitude, like thrust, quick movement. So that's basically what a manipulation. So if I say spinal manipulation, some people in the chiropractor world, they may say, oh, an adjustment or cracking a neck and stuff. Those are layman's terms, but we call it spinal manipulation. Teams like that. So if you are, unfortunately, as an athletic trainer, as far as the rules are right now, you cannot manipulate. But if you're a physical therapist, you're in PT school, you're learning that already. But I will, all other professions, because I've noticed you're not just physical therapists, athletic trainers that are on this call sometimes, or on this video. If you go to great courses, they do upper body, they have then break it into people who have headaches or neck pain. So there's people, because there's athletes all the time that have like back pain, neck pain. It's not saying all the time, but meaning when they do have it, you want to be able to utilize it, or it's back, like lower back. How to, do those. Hope that's something to look into. Teams like that, even becoming like certified. Not saying to be a manual fellow, by any means, or FAMT. That's not required. So understanding that, But having a certification is, so doing that homework. CSCS, another certification, that, not saying you are going into the performance training side, unless that's what you want to do, then obviously pursue that degree, get your master's in that to get your CSCS. But you can actually take your exam. I actually went through class with that, so that's a little different. I didn't just study until after to graduate with your undergraduate degree. Doesn't matter what you graduate with it in. Thank you for everybody understanding my English right now. So then you can take that boards, and then you could be a certified strength conditioning specialist, teams like that. Even if it's just to improve your understanding of like working with a strength conditioning coach. You're not saying that you're trying to come up with training programs, you're at that advanced. If you want to do that, pursue that degree. By all means, you can do that. There's master programs, so you can get into depth and go in detail, even get on the performance science side, getting to load management, all that good stuff as well, if you want to add that in there. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So that's basically that's answering number 6, and I kind of got off on a nice tangent about what's oh, guess what? It answered the next question. So those who following along on my Instagram, the question 7 is, what do you do to continually elevate your knowledge and skills, like certifications, research? So I already talked a lot about that when it came to EMR stuff. I'm coming from Tulsa. There was emergency medicine, there was a cadaver lab. So that's some of the things I like to do. If there's things around, connecting with people in the city, understanding what could be going on, whether it's class, whatever I can do to help my skills. So emergency medicine is something I like. That's my niche. Obviously dry needling, because teams like that, but also it's very effective. And if you're working with a lot of players and you need to like utilize the most of your time, and sometimes your fingers, a lot of times our fingers can't get to bones, we can't get to tendons and hug the tendon and stuff like that. There's a lot of different things, techniques you can do with dry needling. It's not acupuncture, using acupuncture needles, but way more things to say, oh, that muscle hurts, let me put a needle there. There's way more in dry needling that you can do, and that's why I suggest spinalmanipulationinstitute.org for that. Same thing, certifications. One thing I'm working on right now is should be done by now, but I have a lot of work to do, the manual fellowship. So that's something that person that actually gave me these questions, they're in a fellowship, or residency. So you have sports residencies. Ohio State, I think, Ohio State University has one. Duke has one. I went to Duke for my sports physical therapy one, but there's actual athletic training residencies with athletic training as well. So not Duke, but like Ohio State, and then there's other places that have, or just actually like University of Georgia, they have some stuff that even if it's other SEC schools, I went to SEC school, that's why I'm saying that, but other schools and programs, even if it's word of mouth, you're just there, you're working, you're learning, that's some things you can do. For me, because the question is like, what am I doing to work on my skills, is working on my spinal manipulation, cracking necks, so using the word cracking again, just so that you understand. Doing those things, improving on that, working on my man fellowship, that helps me. And also there's a research component. So for those who want to go above and beyond, say you're a physical therapist and doing a residency, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Orthopedic, you can do orthopedic residency. Sports, if you really want to do sports or professional sports, I would say do sports if you can. Getting some experience. If you're an athletic trainer or athletic training student, you are totally fine with probably doing an orthopedic residency because you already have your athletic training experience. You already have your athletic training experience, so doing your OCS will help you gain a little bit more understanding of like the body more, and getting into depth and actually getting some good details with it. So I've already talked about the other certifications and all that good stuff. So now we're getting to question number 8. We have a couple more questions after this. Number 8. So number 8 is, are there any certifications you would recommend to a young professional to separate them from their peers? So I guess I basically touched on this like all for my other questions. So yeah, I said CSCS, getting your first responder, if you don't want to do EMT. I did EMT, so emergency medicine technician basic. nationally registered. You don't have to do that. I need to obviously work on that and let it lapse because I don't utilize it as much. But Cogent Steps, COGENT Steps. You can Google that. That there's something. Sports Medicine Concepts. I think that's what APTA.org also lists on their stuff. You don't have to be an undergraduate student. And that's also undergrads. You're still in school, undergrad, go for it. There's no on that side. CSCS, yes, you have to finish your undergrad. It could be in anything. It could be art history. Shoot, it could be in anything. It could be exercise science, whatever you want to do to study for that. And then there's like principles of strength and conditioning. I don't know if it's still a blue book, but that's something you can study for that material if you didn't take a class. I took classes. You can take your CSCS with that. Other certifications and things to look out for. I think it all depends on what your undergraduate degree is in. So if you're still an undergrad, you don't have to do exercise science. You don't have to do pre-physical therapy. You don't have to do pre-athletic training. So I really sure or allows you to get your prereqs done for whatever graduate program you're going to do. So if you want to do athletic training, make sure you can get the required classes like your anatomy, physiology, etc. That's going to help you get into athletic training school or physical therapy. Do enough that's going to allow you for your majors and your advisor to allow you to get into the classes, do your prereqs to do that. So that's how I met some people who did hospitality and stuff like that, and they were able to utilize that when they got into athletic training school or physical therapy school, and they ended up working with products or working in the sports realm in that aspect. So that I didn't know. No one taught me. I'm like, at the end of the day, like my parents didn't finish school, so it's something you learn along the way. So those are the major certifications I would say. I'm trying to think of anything else. Also, if you wanted to do like Olympic lifting, there's certifications for that. Olympic lifting. If you wanted to get into further of like performance, those things you can do. I didn't do those things, but if that's what you want to do because you have time, do it. But it's not necessary. I think you, if you're an athletic trainer and you going back to do physical therapy, congrats to you if you do that. If you're a physical therapist, go back to athletic training, congrats to you. If you're an undergrad and you are, you're open to doing whatever, I suggest to get both degrees. There are programs. I think now there are 2 programs, but there could be more. I know there's 2 programs right now that allow you to do both athletic training and physical therapy. Physical therapy is a doctorate degree. Athletic training is a master's, okay? So if you have a program that puts them together and knocks off 1 year, so you don't have to do a total of 4+ years, go for it. Shenandoah and Idaho State University as of right now. I say do that. That will like take you over the edge. However, I do want to encourage people hire the trainers who are not physical therapists. So do understand you don't always have to be duly credentialed. So I don't have to do your doctorate in athletic training to set yourself apart. So please understand that is not something you have to do. But just like those certifications that I said just a few minutes ago, those are simple things that you can do that's going to help set you apart. Biggest thing is you just observing anybody around. So if it's your college, ask you to get in the training room, ask if you can clean tables, ask if you can just be a fly on the wall, sign an NDA if they need to, if they feel like you're gonna, a HIPAA or something, they feel like, just to protect both parties so you could be able to learn and understand certain techniques. Because that same shadowing experience, I know I used it, because it's like, can I get a recommendation letter and use that for when I apply to school, or recommendation letter when I'm going to for this job and stuff like that. That is utilized, even if it's in the high school setting. So that's something I'm encouraging people, like, don't knock your high school, like those athletic trainers you can learn a lot from, and hopefully sometimes those athletic trainers know people in college, those college athletic trainers, or know professional athletic trainers, or meaning athletic trainers in the professional realm. So just because they're in the high school doesn't mean anything. Some people choose to work high school, some people choose to work college. So just understanding that the sports medicine realm is very small, so people know each other. So keeping that in mind. Now, question number 9. We're getting close. We're getting really close. So question number 9 is, as the profession transitions to a master's level degree, which athletic training, yes, it is now a master's level degree, how many internships or years would you say a young professional needs to complete before they apply for a full-time job? That is a legit question. Sorry, Lennox person passed by. That is a legit question because I think people who feel like they don't have enough experience may not actually apply for jobs because they're like, oh, well, there might be a more qualified person than me. And I will say, and I'm calling out the females because there's actually stats that show we do this to ourselves. We may see a job and we're like, oh, I don't know if I qualify for that because, looks like that's a cop right there. I don't know if I qualify for that because, you know, I only have this much year. I just graduated, or let's see, I just graduated. Actually, sorry, I was waiting for the cop. Or I just did an internship, or I've only have one job, right? I only have one job. I think you guys need to apply anyway. Because at the end of the day, I will tell you, they didn't get the job, but guess what? They got the internship. That led into a job. That led then to another higher position, like after they worked it. So that's why I would say, like, please apply. Do not think of, I have to have a 5+ internship. I have to land an internship with the NBA. I have to land an internship with the NFL in order for me to qualify to apply for a job, apply for this opening that, you know, that's listed on LinkedIn or that I saw on the NBA website, NFL website, MLB. Apply anyway, because at the end of the day, it could turn into an internship. That internship can gain you more information and more insight, more experience, and then that can help you catapult to another realm, whether that job is where that is located or that job takes you to somewhere else, exactly where you need to be. So that's something that we say there is no minimum. I think at the end of the day, you shouldn't, I would say, don't just graduate and then apply. I'm saying that, I know it sounds like contradicting myself, because it depends on, like, how are your finances. Like, you need to look at, like, am I in a serious relationship with somebody? Like, those are the other things you need to keep, like, you really need to evaluate those things, because when you work in athletic training job, I'm not talking about physical or pro sports job, you're not gonna be, I'm just gonna let you know from now, a lot of people have had failed marriages or broken relationships because you had to have that conversation first with yourself and with your significant other. So not just because, oh, I just graduated, I want to apply for this job, X, Y, and Z, apply for it, but just know, if you got a mom, you living at home, you want to stay close to family, you want to see your family on Thanksgiving, Christmas, that's not what this is about. COVID year is the year I got to see my family Thanksgiving Day. Other than that, when I worked college, you're not getting that. When I worked undergrad, you're not getting that. So keeping that in mind, lies, undergrad, the first 2 years of undergrad I did. But just keeping that in mind, like with this, that might not be the case. So apply anyway. If you have made your personal life, you taken, I'm not sure I understand. This watch is so nosy. Taking into consideration things that you have in your personal life, make sure you're in a good mental health space, because your program most likely is vigorous, whether it's your athletic training program, your internship, your fellowship. And a lot of times if you jump right into your job because you applied and you actually get the job and you're like, oh snap, I got the job, I got the internship or whatever, in this high profession, just knowing that you are good mentally, because it is a year-long interview. So even if it's your that job, they're it's almost like an interview the whole time. They're watching you. So make sure that you are good mentally before you apply to these places, because you may actually get that job. So especially this day and age, we're trying to diversify. So I know people know, nobody's dumb. We're trying to diversify, whether it comes to the females or ethnicities, like no matter what ethnicity or race. there's diversity happening everywhere because people are qualified. So just apply anyway. So drum roll. Okay, we are at 46 minutes and change. We are at our last question. So if you made this far, appreciate y'all. Those coming back and watch the video, cool. Last question, number 10. So what piece of advice would you give a young professional to stand out in interviews? That's another good question. So the biggest thing, instead of I think to stand out in a bad way, is name dropping. Try not to name drop. And I'm saying that meaning like, oh, I worked with player so-and-so, and I worked with player so-and-so when he was in college or while he was in high school. Try not to do that if possible, because it's like you're tooting your own horn, but it's not showcasing your skills. So you want the things that showcase your skills that you toot your horn on. Like, I went and took this course and I learned about this, and this. Hold on, I'm trying to see who this person is next to me. Yeah, so be careful, like tooting your own horn. In that sense, you want to toot your horn in your certifications. Certifications. Obviously, if it's on your resume, you don't want to be so caught up in reading your resume. So things like name dropping would help you is like professionals in the physical therapy or athletic training setting. So that would be like, you went to CSM or you went to NATA and you met up with an athletic trainer that works here or did this program, or you got to shadow them, work with them. You had to have coffee with them, got some insight. Those things you want to bring up, those experiences that you had. That helps. Trying not to come in the interview as with, I hurt my knee when I was in high school and that's when I knew I wanted to do athletic training. That's when I knew we did physical. Unfortunately, they hear that all the time. Same thing when it comes to, papers. If you had to, if there was an actual application to write about, try to refrain from those things. Think about the people you've met or the experiences you had other than an injury that helped shape who you are, help opening your eyes and understanding for how you view sports medicine, how you change your practice, and even if your practice is just starting, even if you're still in school, because say for internships, there's a lot of times there's an application process, so you have to write on those things. So if you don't know someone, I'm pretty sure there's someone that you follow on LinkedIn. You can talk about that, and you can even talk about their journey that you see. Say if you interacted with them, your high school athletic trainer, you interacted with them, their schooling, what they did, their experiences, that's stuff that you can touch on. It could be very small, but those small details and the appreciation that you have for the athletic trainer or physical therapist. I know we're talking about athletic training because Athletic Training Month, and that physical therapist, that's what helps stand out when when people interview. Because a lot of times these interviews, they're about your skills, but a lot of times the skills are like a practical, like what you show them what you can do. Which, if you've done your clinical rotations, you've done, your clinicals, you will be fine in that aspect, despite being nervous or whatever. But when it comes to the actual talking portion and getting to know you, they want to see you are as a person and not just someone who's looking for the glamorous life and the shining gold stuff, because professional sports appears to be glamorous, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of hard work. It's a business. So there's things that that's not going to look cool. There's late hours, a lot of travel away from family, away from your significant other, things of that nature. So if you can touch on things that speak on your personality of who you are, your interactions with others, whether that is a student or another student, your classmate, a peer, turning the car, those things, that's something you want to touch up on. So yeah, that's it. We're almost at the hour mark, and I am about 32 minutes away from home because that was a long drive, but I hope it helps somebody out there. And also too, thank you for the athletic training fellow that gave me these 10 questions. there are so many other DMs, so I need to like go through those, and hopefully if it's easier to do like a screenshot of them and then start answering these questions away, I'll try to get to them as best we can. A little update on this end, it is March 2nd over here. Obviously the request was from January, the beginning of January, so that tells you I really appreciate y'all, but it's a little busy. So people probably know the NBA season is still going, regular season. Not even talking about anything about playing tournaments or playoffs, not talking about that. But as soon as the regular season ends, we're going to be right into, or we've already started like talking to athletic trainers for colleges or in colleges about pre-draft stuff. So the pre-draft process deals with workouts. Obviously that could be a whole separate video to tell you about details on that if anybody's interested. Yeah, so it's a lot of stuff. And then we got pre-draft workouts. We got the combine in May. April's all still basketball, regular season stuff. So we're a little busy, but I know I have a little bit of, I have some upcoming talks with other people, whether they're in the professional space, either in physical therapy, athletic training, or outside of it completely. There will be some schools that hopefully I can talk with. And along the way for the DM, still trying to message people and get on to just kind of get caught up in that, because as I keep answering messages, more messages keep coming in. So thank you guys for your patience. Yeah, thank you for liking and subscribing, and share this video with someone. I know it's like 50-some minutes long. Share it with someone that will benefit and hopefully help somebody else. And see you guys in the next video. And bye.